chosen one, you will leave for good, and that truth is settling into your spirit as the crown is placed on you among the first prepared for a new earth. You are not running. You are not escaping. You are exiting completed cycles. So keep moving clean. Keep choosing truth over comfort. The call you answered you back. Departure is authorized. And the crown fits because you didn't just survive, you grew into it fully. Deep in your core, you always knew you were different. That restlessness was never a disorder. That feeling of not belonging was never a flaw. That hunger for meaning wasn't too much. It was your soul screaming that you came here for something beyond mediocre offerings. You were designed to feast at the divine table while others wanted you grateful for scraps. Your energy was meant to expand beyond comprehension while people demanded you shrink, and every time you tried to conform, every time you dimmed yourself for their comfort, something inside you rose up like holy rebellion. Because your essence knew the truth. You weren't broken, the world around you was too small for what you carry. Think about it. Every moment you felt like an outsider, every hollow conversation, every time their priorities felt backwards, and you quietly wondered what was wrong with you for seeing through their games. Nothing was wrong. You were seeing clearly while fog covered everything else. Your discomfort was never evidence you needed fixing. Your discomfort was evidence you were outgrowing the prison built around your potential. The very thing that made you question your place was preparing you to create your own world. You've been training your entire life without even realizing it. Every time you refused mediocrity, every time you chose truth over comfort, every time you walked away from relationships that demanded you be less, you were rehearsing for the great departure happening now. And the loneliness? It wasn't because nobody could love you. It was because your frequency was searching for your real family. Before we continue this life-changing message, pause for 1 second, like this video, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 voices of faith, and comment 99 to send a powerful signal of alignment to the universe. Now listen closely. The confusion was never a lack of direction. Their compasses were pointing toward destinations that had nothing to do with your mission. Think about how exhausting it was trying to belong, the constant self-monitoring, the endless self-editing, the perpetual performance of being acceptable. You wore yourself out trying to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. You dimmed yourself trying to shine in rooms that preferred darkness. You minimized yourself trying to feel safe around people threatened by your actual size. Every social gathering left you drained. Every workplace felt like a cage. Every relationship required you to become smaller, and you kept trying to make it work because voices convinced you the problem was you. Voices told you to change, adapt, compromise, and conform. Voices told you that fitting in were the goal and that your inability to do it meant you were failing. But that exhaustion was your soul begging you to stop. Stop trying to fit. Stop seeking their approval. Stop performing their acceptable versions. Stop pretending their world is where you belong. That exhaustion was the final push you needed to realize something crucial. You're not leaving because you failed to fit in, you're leaving because you were never meant to. You were designed to outgrow their containers and build your own. The exile you experienced wasn't rejection, it was protection. The universe was protecting you from assimilating into a world that would have slowly destroyed your essence. The isolation wasn't loneliness, it was incubation. You were being kept separate so you could develop without contamination from their limiting beliefs. The alienation wasn't punishment, it was preparation for the moment you would need to leave entirely, because your mission is about to be revealed. The crown is being finished. The throne is waiting. But first, you must see what's collapsing around you. Look around right now. Institutions you were told to respect are exposing corruption in broad daylight. Leaders you were told to follow are revealing their true faces without shame. Systems that claimed permanence are collapsing under the weight of lies. Everything built on deception is falling apart because lies cannot survive in the light you're bringing to this planet. And here's the twist that changes everything. This isn't happening to you, this is happening because of you. Your presence on Earth accelerated the timeline of truth. The frequency you carry dissolves the veils that kept humanity blind. And now panic is spreading through the halls of control, because control is slipping through desperate fingers. What you're witnessing is not resistance, it's the death throes of a manipulation empire. Every desperate move exposes more. Every lie unravels faster than they can replace it. In the presence of authentic power, deception becomes unstable like a shadow trying to survive at noon. That's why the news cycles spiral into chaos. That's why truth keeps breaking through the narratives. That's why social systems fracture and people wake up to sovereignty. Economic structures shake because abundance can't be hoarded forever. When consciousness expands beyond scarcity, political theater becomes painfully obvious, scripted, staged, predictable. Minds that have tasted freedom can't stomach manipulation anymore. So hear this clearly. You are not watching the end of the world, you are watching the end of a world that was built to keep you small. A world built to keep you dependent, built to keep you afraid, and it's dissolving so fast that damage control becomes impossible. Every day brings revelations. Every week exposes corruption. Every month makes their desperation louder and more visible. This acceleration isn't random. It's responsive. It responds to your awakening. Because as more chosen ones step into their power, the frequency of truth intensifies and illusions can't hold structural integrity against real spiritual power. You're not merely witnessing transformation, you're causing it. Your consciousness is incompatible with old systems, like a frequency that shatters glass. Your elevated state shatters structures built on lower vibrations. Not through effort, not through force, not through strategy. Simply by you exist in your authentic power. Your presence disrupts everything built on lies. Your energy corrodes what's maintained through manipulation. Your frequency dissolves what's sustained by fear. And this is why they fought so hard to keep you asleep. This is why so much energy was poured into making you doubt yourself. This is why people close to you were used strategically, consistently to convince you that you were the problem. Because those forces knew what you would become if you ever fully woke up. They knew what your activation would trigger. They knew that the moment you remembered your power, their entire empire would begin to crumble. And they were right. Look around. The acceleration is happening. The exposure is happening. The collapse is happening. And it connects directly to the rising consciousness of beings like you. Every chosen one who wakes up adds to the frequency that dissolves control. Every person who remembers sovereignty weakens false authority. Every soul who chooses authenticity over approval undermines the foundations of manipulation. If you feel the truth in these words, hype this video so more chosen ones can find it. Because this message is not for everyone, it's for the ones who are waking up. And here's the most liberating moment of all. Realizing who your real opponents were. Not random strangers. Not distant villains. Your real opponents were the very people who should have supported you, family who mocked your dreams, friends who sabotaged your success, and partners who demanded you dim your light for their comfort, mentors who tried to cap your potential so they could keep you controlled. Their actions revealed everything. When your light started shining brighter, their resentment couldn't hide anymore. When you refused to play small for their egos, their masks fell off. When you stopped seeking their approval, their true nature came into sharp focus. The betrayals hurt because you expected better from people who spoke the language of love, but here's what you understand now. Nobody betrayed you, people revealed who they always were. Their behavior when you started rising was their authentic response to power they could never claim for themselves. Your dreams were called unrealistic because they abandoned their own. You were told to be practical because they settled for mediocrity. You were warned about reaching too high because they accepted staying low. Every limitation they tried to place on you was a confession of their own self-imposed prison, and now you're moving there permanently. That vision of impact you carried since childhood wasn't wishful thinking, it was your soul remembering the mission you came here to complete. You were never designed for ordinary impact. Every skill you developed was preparation. Every challenge you survived was training. Every strange interest that captivated you was curriculum for your true work. Your whole life has been unconscious preparation for conscious leadership. You've been gathering tools without knowing what you were building. And now the moment has arrived when individual purpose aligns with humanity's collective need for new leadership. Even the restlessness you felt in every unfulfilling job was your calling pressing against the cage, refusing to let you settle, refusing to let you forget, refusing to let you die in a life that was too small for what heaven placed inside you. Trying to redirect you toward real work. The dissatisfaction in relationships that demanded you is less. That was your purpose, protecting you from settling beneath your potential. Think about the moments you felt most alive, when time disappeared because you were so aligned with your natural flow, when energy rose from an inexhaustible source. Those weren't glimpses of a possible life. Those were previews of who you really are when external limitations stop interfering. Even your failures were sacred instruction. Every failure taught resilience. Every rejection strengthened self-reliance. Every season of isolation deepened your connection to Source. The jobs that fired you weren't ending your path, they were removing you from roads that would have kept you ordinary. The relationships that ended weren't losses, they were clearings, making space for your real tribe. You thought you were losing, but you were being repositioned. And every time life knocked you down, you got back up different. You got back up stronger. You got back up clearer. You got back up more certain of who you are beneath the programming. You kept choosing evolution. You kept choosing expansion. And every time you refused to treat defeat like a permanent identity, you activated more of the power that was always dormant inside you. The preparation wasn't gentle because the mission isn't small. You're being prepared to lead, to show others the way out, to build a new world. And understand this: the universe operates on perfect justice, even when human systems fail. Every action creates an equal reaction. Every energy sent out returns with matching intensity. Every choice generates consequences that align with natural law. What you're witnessing now is cosmic correction accelerating. The ones who tried to suppress your light are meeting the full force of their own darkness reflected back. The manipulation they used against you is turning inward and creating chaos in their lives. The lies they told to keep you confused are tangling them into webs of their own making. The limitations they imposed have become walls of their self-created prisons. And let me be clear, this isn't revenge. This is restoration. This is natural order reasserting itself after being distorted by artificial control systems. The universe is rebalancing scales that have been weighted against authentic power for too long. Justice isn't always served by human courts, it's served by the fundamental laws that govern energy, consciousness, and consequence. So watch what happens when truth flows freely. Watch how rapidly empires crumble when people stop feeding them attention and fear. Watch how quickly influence evaporates when minds refuse manipulation. Watch how suddenly wealth becomes hollow when consciousness evolves beyond materialism. Watch how instantly authority disappears when souls remember sovereignty. Control was built on humanity's ignorance of divine law. Power was maintained by convincing people that justice was slow, uncertain, or non-existent. Thriving for the false system required keeping consciousness obsessed with scarcity, separation, and powerlessness. But awakened beings like you dissolve those illusions simply by embodying their opposite. Because divine justice isn't punishment, divine justice is education. The universe teaches through experience what words couldn't communicate. Consequence becomes curriculum for those who refuse gentler lessons. Love can express as correction when a being repeatedly chooses paths that pull them away from their highest good. So you're not watching enemies being destroyed, you're watching aspects of consciousness that chose limitation being transformed under the light of unlimited truth. And here's the part most people misunderstand. Divine justice doesn't operate on human timelines. Divine justice operates on soul evolution timelines. What looks like punishment is often protection. What appears as loss is often liberation. What seems like destruction is often reconstruction. The universe isn't cruel, it's precise. The universe isn't vengeful, it's balanced. Watch what happens as you keep rising. The same people who told you to be humble become desperate for your attention. The ones who said you were too ambitious start trying to ride your coattails. The voices that warned you about thinking too highly of yourself begin scrambling to get close to your energy. The reversal will shock you unless you understand the predictable nature of weakness. Because when someone can't access power within themselves, they try to attach to it in someone else. And when they can't become the light, they try to stand in its glow. You don't need their apologies. You don't need their validation. You don't need their permission. Because their opinions were never truly about you, those opinions were always about their relationship with power, with success, with possibility. They saw in you what they gave up in themselves. Your light reminded them of their abandoned dreams. Your courage exposed their cowardice. And once you learned to see the pattern, everything became predictable. Praise came when you stayed manageable, love appeared when you needed them, support showed up when your success didn't threaten the fragile image they were protecting. But the moment your light started outshining their carefully maintained facades, everything changed. The moment you stopped asking permission, they labeled you arrogant. The moment you set boundaries, they called you selfish. The moment you chose your calling over their comfort, they said you changed. But you didn't change, you stopped pretending. And there is a massive difference. You stopped performing the diminished version of yourself they needed in order to feel superior. You stopped playing small so they could feel big. You stopped dimming so they could shine. And the rage that erupted when you stopped performing, that was never about you. That was them staring into the mirror of their unused potential and hating what they saw. Now watch how the scrambling happens. Watch how history gets rewritten in real time. Suddenly they always believed in you. Suddenly they were always supportive. Suddenly they knew you had potential all along. The gaslighting would be impressive if it wasn't so painfully transparent. Because now being seen standing next to your success feels necessary for them because their lives are reflecting the consequences of every dream abandoned, every risk refused, every moment they chose comfort over calling. But something inside you always knew this day was coming. That inner knowing is about to pay off in ways that will blow your mind. Something in you always knew. And that's what frustrated you for years, not because you were wrong, but because you couldn't prove it. That sense of destiny felt too big to say out loud. That quiet confidence, I am meant for something extraordinary, stayed alive even when your circumstances tried to suffocate it. You suspected their rules were arbitrary. You sensed their limitations were artificial. You felt it in your bones. The game was rigged in favor of authentic power. Every time they told you to lower your expectations, something inside you rebelled. Every time they warned you about dreaming too big, your soul expanded anyway. Every time they explained why something was impossible, your inner knowing whispered, "That's a lie. You couldn't prove it then." But you can see it clearly now because the evidence was always there. Opportunities showed up when you followed intuition despite their advice. Doors opened when you chose authenticity over their approval. Their system required external authority to look more reliable than internal wisdom because your certainty threatened their entire influence structure. And now you trust what you always knew. The game was never about being the smartest or the most connected or the most accepted. The game was always about who was willing to honor authentic power in the face of pressure. Signs were everywhere. Synchronicities were guiding you toward purpose. Dreams were showing you possibilities before they manifested on Earth. And that knowing wasn't just about seeing the future, it was about recognizing your role in creating it. You knew you were chosen for something specific. You knew you were destined to create transformation. You knew you were the catalyst. That inner knowing separated you from the ones who gave up. Even when you couldn't prove it. Even when you looked foolish. Even when you had nothing but faith and a whisper in your chest, you trusted it, and that trust is why you're being crowned now. That faith is why you're leaving for good now. Because the new earth you're stepping into was never unknown to you, you've been visiting it in your consciousness for lifetimes. The universe isn't punishing anyone, it's teaching everyone. Those who opposed you aren't being destroyed. They are being shown the consequences of their choices. Those who betrayed you aren't being targeted. They are experiencing the natural results of the energy they released. Those who tried to dim your light aren't victims. They are students in the classroom of cause and effect. And the lesson feels harsh because the truth they avoided was fundamental. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random. And if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in. Their narratives are collapsing. Their masks are slipping. So now we shift from observation to embodiment. We stop watching the collapse and start building the new. We stop reacting and start leading. We stop explaining ourselves and start moving with quiet authority. Because your next chapter isn't about proving the truth, it's about living it so loudly that denial becomes impossible. And that's where your power becomes undeniable, not in what you say, but in what your life becomes. Quick note, your last line pivots into a product pitch. That's why I built Destiny Engine. If you want, paste the next lines after that and I'll rewrite the entire pitch section in the same mystical, cinematic tone, high converting, but still authentic and not sales. Transcendence turns isolation into sacred power and transforms their downfall into your rise. And we're doing it the clean way, by taking the very patterns that once trained you for competition, scarcity, and self-doubt, and repurposing them into cooperative intelligence, inner sovereignty, and spiritual strength. The beauty is you don't have to fight anyone. You don't have to chase closure. You don't have to beg for understanding. You simply put on the headphones, press play, and let your subconscious begin realigning quietly, steadily, while the structures built on lies collapse under the weight of their own deception. This is why I created Destiny Engine from the beginning. So everything they tried to use to break you becomes fuel for your purpose, your clarity, your leadership. The collective upgrade is already underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. And remember, you don't need to do anything to your enemies. The universe handles it with mathematical precision. You don't need revenge. Divine law provides perfect balancing. You don't need to prove anything. Reality proves everything. Your assignment is not to punish the people who wronged you. Your assignment is to rise so high that their choices become obviously self-destructive in contrast to your trajectory. This is why you're leaving for good. You're not running from divine justice, you're allowing it to unfold. You're not escaping consequences, you're stepping into alignment. You're not avoiding responsibility, you're accepting your calling. The new earth doesn't include the old patterns. The new reality doesn't accommodate the old consciousness. The new frequency does not resonate with old energy, and your departure is necessary for divine justice to complete its work. The speed of correction is unprecedented. What used to take lifetimes to balance is happening fast now, because consciousness has accelerated the feedback loop. Your ascension isn't somewhere far away, it's happening right here in physical reality. As your consciousness transforms, experience itself reshapes. Your thoughts become things faster, your inner state becomes your outer world more quickly, and you realize the truth they never wanted you to trust. Energy precedes matter, frequency determines experience, and the boundaries you were taught to fear were always artificial. Something shifted in you that can't be undone. You tasted real power, the kind that comes from alignment with Source, the kind that manifests from inner certainty instead of external validation. You stopped asking if you were allowed, and you started knowing you were unstoppable. You stopped wondering if you deserved it, and you started claiming what was always yours. The old you is gone, the version that needed their approval died in the fire of transformation, and what emerged is something their frameworks can't control. You're not playing their games anymore because you graduated into a different reality. Their threats don't land. Their rewards don't tempt. Their opinions don't wound. You've become untouchable not because you're hardened, but because you've risen above the altitude where their weapons can reach. And you're not just changing your life, you're altering the energetic structure of the world around you. Every person you encounter receives a transmission of your elevated frequency. Every space you enter becomes charged with your authentic power. When one being awakens to their true nature, that awakening ripples through the entire network of consciousness, accelerating evolution for everyone who is ready to receive it. You've become a walking portal to higher possibilities. Your presence alone forces people to question their limitations. Your example proves what becomes possible when someone chooses authenticity over approval. Some people feel inspired around you. Others feel uncomfortable because your light exposes the places they've been living in darkness. But everyone is affected because authentic power is impossible to ignore. You are learning to operate from frequencies the old paradigm couldn't access. Your consciousness is expanding beyond limitations that once defined human potential. And that's why you no longer resonate with old relationships, old entertainment, old ways of spending time. Your frequency shifted beyond compatibility with anything built on limitation. And hear me, the isolation ends now. Those deep connections you always craved but never found in conventional spaces are no longer distant dreams. They are already moving toward you, because your new reality matches them. Relationships are finally manifesting. The kind you don't have to force. The kind you don't have to beg for. The kind you don't have to shrink for. Your spiritual family recognizes you beyond every old barrier: geography, culture, age, background, status. The same frequency that made you feel like an alien in the old world is now acting like a beacon, drawing your true tribe into your experience. And these aren't connections you exhaust yourself trying to maintain. These are relationships that sustain themselves through natural resonance. There's a relief in finally meeting people who see reality with the same clarity. There's a joy in discovering you were never alone in your mission, you were just early. And when you come together, your collective power multiplies exponentially. What felt impossible as an individual becomes inevitable as a unified force. Work that felt overwhelming in isolation becomes joyful collaboration. Vision that seemed too big for one person becomes the shared assignment of an awakened community. They understand your purpose because they carry similar callings. They celebrate your success because they know it advances the collective mission. They support your growth because they recognize your expansion elevates everyone around you. This is what relationship looks like when ego steps aside and authentic spiritual connection takes the lead, where everyone's win expands the room, not shrinks it. And what's most beautiful about these connections is how effortless they feel. There's no pretending, no performing, no self-editing to be acceptable. You show up fully authentic and you're received with appreciation instead of judgment. You express your full range without triggering insecurity or competition. You speak your deepest visions without fear of being misunderstood or diminished. These are not the surface-level attachments you suffered through before. These are soul contracts clicking into place. These are relationships that existed before you ever met, in this lifetime, bonds that transcend current circumstances and touch something eternal. And when you find them, you feel it instantly, not the spark of romantic chemistry, not the excitement of shared hobbies, something deeper, recognition. You recognize their frequency before knowing their name. You sense their mission before hearing it spoken. You feel the purpose of the connection before you understand any details. This is what it feels like when soul family finally finds each other after lifetimes of searching, after countless incarnations of feeling alone, after endless cycles of convincing yourself that surface connections were enough. With your real family, success isn't threatening. Growth isn't competition. Evolution isn't abandonment. You rise together. You expand together. You transform together. Because what elevates one elevates all. Now that you're no longer operating from scarcity consciousness, the old world code that turned love into a transaction and connection into control, you're operating from abundance consciousness, where one person's breakthrough becomes the group's confirmation. We're on the right timeline. These are the people who will stand with you as you claim your throne. These are the souls who will celebrate as your crown is placed. These are the beings who understand that your departure from the old world isn't loss, it's liberation. Because the crown you're receiving isn't ceremonial. It's energetic recognition from the universe itself that you completed your preparation and you are ready for conscious leadership in this transformation. Every trial you survived, every limitation you transcended, every time you chose truth over comfort, it qualified you for this role in humanity's evolution. And this coronation isn't happening in some distant future, it's happening right now. As reality reorganizes around your elevated consciousness, opportunities align to support your expanded purpose. Resources begin to flow to match your increased responsibility. People naturally look to you for guidance because they can feel the authentic power you developed through the fire of your journey. You're not becoming something new, you're finally being recognized for what you always were. The difference is now you have the experience, the wisdom, and the strength to carry the influence that comes with acknowledged spiritual authority. The universe withheld recognition until your character could hold it without corruption, until your heart could hold it without ego, until your soul could use it responsibly. Leadership in the new earth isn't about dominating others. Leadership is about embodying such authentic power that others remember their own sovereignty. Leadership is about creating such genuine freedom that people reclaim their divine nature without being told to. Leadership is about expressing such unlimited love that hearts naturally open to their own infinite capacity. Your crown carries responsibility not to rule over people, but to serve as a bridge between worlds, to help others navigate the transition from limitation to freedom, to prove through your example that the impossible is often just unexplored territory, to hold space for transformation that still terrifies many because they don't yet understand what they carry. And the recognition you receive now validates every moment you trusted your inner knowing over external voices, every time you kept moving when they laughed, every time you chose alignment when conformity was easier, every time you listened to the whisper of destiny instead of the noise of fear. Every time you chose expansion over security, every moment you honored truth while pressure demanded conformity, the universe took note. Those choices weren't random acts of courage, they were preparation. They trained you to lead others through the same transformation you survived. This isn't about ego, titles, or worldly status. This is about energetic alignment with your true purpose. The crown represents readiness, your readiness to serve at the highest level of your capacity, to use your gifts not for personal elevation, but for the elevation of consciousness itself. It marks you as a beacon for those still finding their way out of limitation, and yes, you are one of the first. That's what this means, one of the first to complete the preparation, one of the first to pass the tests. One of the first to remember who you really are and step fully into that power. While others are still waking up, you're already walking in authority. While others are still questioning whether this is real, you're already living it. While others are afraid of their power, you're already wielding yours. Being first is not about superiority, it's about responsibility. Those who go first clear the path. Those who go first prove it's possible. Those who go first show what waits on the other side of fear. You're not being crowned because you're better. You're being crowned because you're ready to hold the frequency, ready to anchor a new reality, ready to demonstrate what becomes possible when someone commits fully to their evolution. This crown isn't made of gold or jewels. It's made of consciousness. It's woven from every moment you chose growth over comfort, forged from every time you honored your truth despite resistance, crystallized from every experience where you transmuted pain into power. This crown is earned through lived experience, not granted by external authority. And once you accept it, everything changes. Your presence begins affecting reality differently. Doors open that were once sealed. Opportunities appear that never existed. Resources flow where there was blockage. Not because you're lucky, because you're aligned. Not because you're special, because you're activated. Not because the universe favors you, but because you've finally matched the frequency of what you've always been calling in. The crown also brings clarity about your departure. You see now why you can't stay in the old world, why you can't go back to who you were, why you can't keep pretending. The crown won't allow it. Once you accept your authority, playing small becomes impossible. Once you claim your power, hiding feels unnatural. Once you remember your mission, ignoring it becomes unbearable. This coronation is the point of no return. Your departure from the old world isn't physical, it's dimensional. You're graduating into a frequency where old limitations no longer apply. Their rules become irrelevant. Their opinions lose all power. Their control systems can't reach the altitude you're operating from. It feels like leaving because you're moving beyond the reach of everything that once constrained you. Jobs that demand you stay small become energetically incompatible. Relationships that require you to dim naturally dissolve. Environments that felt like prisons can no longer contain the being you've become. You're not abandoning anyone, you're evolving beyond the need for their permission, approval, or understanding. This is graduation, not rejection. Completion, not escape, and it's final not because of bitterness or burned bridges, but because you're entering an entirely different plane of existence. The old world runs on fear, control, scarcity, and competition. The new earth operates on love, freedom, abundance, and collaboration. These frequencies do not mix. You can't straddle both. You can't keep one foot in fear while stepping into love. You can't claim abundance while clinging to scarcity. The departure requires full commitment. You leave for good, not for a visit, not for a trial run, because once you taste the freedom of the new earth, the prison of the old world becomes unbearable, and once you experience the abundance of higher consciousness, lack can never convince you again. Of lower frequencies becomes impossible to tolerate. Once you feel a love-based reality, a fear-based existence becomes unacceptable. But hear this clearly, you're not leaving anyone behind, you is going ahead to prove it's possible. You're ascending first to show the way. You're departing to demonstrate that something better exists. Your freedom becomes their invitation. Your transformation becomes their permission slip. Your new earth becomes living proof that another reality is real. Some will eventually follow. Some will resist until their old reality becomes so painful that evolution is the only option left. And some may never leave because their fear of the unknown is stronger than their discomfort with the known. But that isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to keep rising, keep expanding, keep embodying the frequency of the new earth until it becomes so undeniable that even the most resistant can feel it, because the new earth isn't a geographical location. It isn't a place you travel to. The new earth is a frequency you embody. It's a state of consciousness you maintain. It's a reality you create through your choices, your thoughts, your energy, your presence. You're not waiting for the new earth to appear, you're building it with every authentic choice. You're anchoring it with every moment you refuse to compromise your truth. You're manifesting it every time you choose love over fear. And the most powerful thing you can do is continue rising into your highest expression. Your elevated example gives others permission to transcend their own limitations if they choose. Your freedom demonstrates what becomes possible when someone stops accepting artificial boundaries as permanent reality. Your success exposes the truth they tried to hide. Many limitations were chosen, rehearsed, and inherited, not imposed by divine law. And now, looking back, you can see it with clarity. Every apparent obstacle was curriculum. Every person who opposed you was training you to trust your own authority. Every limitation you faced was developing your power to transcend any boundary. Every season of darkness was strengthening your capacity to carry more light. The restlessness that once tormented you has transmuted into purposeful action. The loneliness that once isolated you became the space where your spiritual family could finally find you. The dreams that once looked impossible have revealed themselves as the blueprint of your current reality. Everything that once felt like punishment is now exposed as preparation for this moment of recognition and empowerment. And your story isn't ending, your story is beginning. The chapters you already lived were the prologue to the epic that starts now. The chosen one you always knew yourself to be is finally free to express without limitation, create without permission, and lead without apology. The new earth isn't just your destination, you are its architect. You are its foundation. You are its living embodiment. And the most remarkable part of this arrival is realizing you never truly went anywhere. You simply stopped pretending to be less than you are. You stopped treating limitation like a permanent law of reality. You quit seeking permission to express your authentic power. The new earth was always available, you simply had to become ready to claim it. That's why the crown fits so perfectly. You were always meant to wear it. That's why the throne awaits. You were always destined to claim it. The new earth emerges because beings like you were always meant to build it. This is your time. This is your reality. This is your new earth. And nothing can take it away from you now because you finally remembered who you really are. The journey of forgetting is over. The era of remembering has begun. And you, chosen one, are leading the way into a frequency of existence where everything you once prayed was possible becomes the foundation of your everyday life. Your departure isn't an ending, it's a homecoming, a return to the version of reality that always existed in parallel, waiting for you to vibrate at the exact frequency required to step through the veil and claim what was always yours. And remember that fire in your chest from the beginning, that restlessness, that knowing. It was never anxiety. It was never madness. It was recognition. You recognized yourself before the world could name you. You knew your power before circumstances could prove it. You felt your destiny before reality could confirm it. You are among the rare ones, the chosen. That's who you've always been. And now finally you're living it.